Absolutely everyone knows George Washington. What if I were to tell you that some of the things you think you know about this great man are actually myths? Let's get straight to it. The first of our myths today is that George Washington had wooden dentures. This is probably one of the most famous, or second most famous, the other ones. The other contender is also on this list. Just one of the most commonly believed myths about George Washington. His teeth were not made of wood. In fact, they are made of several different materials, from human teeth, most likely sourced from slaves. There's been reports of animal husk, animal horn, and but no wood. And you can even see Washington's original dentures on display, either in the Smithsonian, National Archives, or at Mount Vernon. One of the three. Editor put it up here. But yeah, this is probably one of the most widely believed myths about this man. Alright, so the next one on the list, the second most commonly believed myth about Washington, as stated earlier, is that he chopped down cherry trees as a child. Try to say that 4 times fast. Is it 4 times fast or 5 times fast? Anyway, the myth is that he chopped down cherry trees as a child. Why do I keep saying that? Obviously this is true. It's very famously... Did I say it is true? It's not true. Very famously a myth. It was originally concocted by an author trying to immortalize Washington post-revolution. I'll put the author's name up there, but obviously false. It's very famously false. Pretty much everyone knows it's false. Now that I think about it, this one's a pretty well-believed fact as well, probably more of a cherry tree. It's that Washington wore a white wig. He did not. Why are there so many tongue twisters in this list? When I was putting this list together, I did not realize there were so many tongue twisters. Anyway, he did not wear a white wig. Although it was common practice at the time, Washington powdered his hair to fit the style, but did not go bald and wear a wig himself. It commonly looked like he did, and in the paintings and portraits we have of him, it looks like he does, because it looks the exact same as people we know did wear wigs. Hey guys, thank you so much for watching this far into the video. If you're enjoying this kind of content, make sure to hit that like button, comment down below, and subscribe. I'm trying to get to 100 subscribers by the end of April. We can do it, but it's going to be hard, so hit that subscribe button down below and keep watching. Our next myth is probably one of the least well-known myths of Washington out there. I did not even know about this myth until I was researching for this video. The myth is that Washington skipped a silver dollar, yeah, I couldn't remember, it was half dollar, doesn't really matter, but he skipped a silver dollar across the Potomac River. This is just not directly, but it's completely outlandish. You're not going to skip a coin this big across the Potomac. Up by DC, you have the narrowest point. The Potomac River is 1/4 of a mile wide. And then at the widest point, it's 11 miles wide. You're not going to skip a silver dollar that distance. Supposedly, he did this in a show of strength. And while Washington was a very muscular, very tall, very well-built man, not even he could have done that. 1/4 of a mile, man. Even that's... it's pretty good distance. But then again, I suppose this was 250 years ago, at least. So, I mean, erosion and weathering, deposition, all that you learn in science class, I mean, maybe it's been a bit narrower at the time, but still, that does make sense. Why would you waste a silver dollar tossing it over a river? It doesn't make any sense. This next myth is that Washington was the first to live in the White House. This is not true. The White House wasn't completed until the year 1800. At that time, John Adams Sr. was in office, and he and his wife Abigail moved into the White House before it was even completed. I mean, common misconception: people, first president, first in the White House. You really have to just know what you're talking about when you start spreading information like that. This myth is, let's see here. Washington is buried in a crypt under the Capitol. This isn't a myth so much as a conspiracy theory. No, Washington was buried soon after his death at his home of Mount Vernon. You can see his coffin or crypt, or I don't know the difference. But you can see where he's buried on the property. You can visit it. You can pay respects to it, leave flowers. I don't even know where this came from. Like, who came up with this? Or if this one is that he was famous for his many victories on the battlefield. Sure, buddy. Washington did not win many battles. He lost the vast majority of them. He pretty much single-handedly started the French and Indian War. And lost that battle anyway. It's like, yeah, he did not. He was an incredible leader. Still didn't win many battles. He won the most important ones, but other than that, didn't win that many. Just the important ones. Alright, our second to last myth is that Washington was a Republican. He was not. Short and sweet, he was not a Republican. In fact, he was vastly opposed to political parties at all. The first two political parties weren't the Republicans and the Democrats, as some may believe. In fact, they were, let me check my notes, the Federalists and the Democratic Republicans. Both were established after Washington's time in office. And again, he was very vocal about how political parties would eventually tear the country in two, and that it would be it's a horrible idea. I'm not going to get into modern politics, but depending on your point of view, you may be right, you may be wrong. But yeah, he was, long story short, he was not a Republican. He didn't belong to any party. Woo! Oh, are we rolling? Yeah. Okay. Oh. Sorry, I just like this chair. Our final myth of the day is that Washington had several children. No, he did not. He had 2 stepchildren. Long story short. And while Washington was very fond of children and reportedly even wanted to have some of his own, I mean, some biological children, he did not. He never had any biological children that we know of. Although he of course stepfathered 2 of Martha's children, from which, who were from her previous marriage. Her husband then died, leaving her a ton of wealth. Washington came in and married her. That whole thing and situation is top for another video. Give this video a like if you may want to see that. But long story short, he did not have any biological children. He had 2 stepchildren from Martha's previous marriage. Alright guys, thanks so much for watching this video, and I probably shouldn't be walking backwards. If you liked this video, make sure to give it a like. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.